I'm Senior Chief Musician Barrett Seals with the United States Coast Guard Band. And today we're going to introduce to you the oboe. This is an oboe. And the oboe is a member of the double reed family. Now the oboe in its current form has been around since the late 1800s, but its original form actually started back in the 1600s. So it's been around for quite some time. And the oboe is a member of the double reed family. That includes the oboe, the bassoon, and some other auxiliary instruments. And the reason it's called a double reed is because the sound is actually produced on this, which is two reeds tied together. So this little reed here is what produces the sound for the instrument, and it's two pieces of cane that have been tied together. And when you blow through them, they produce a sound, which sounds like this. Which by itself is not a very nice sound, but when it's put into the instrument, it becomes a lot nicer. So as I mentioned, this sound is produced with this, and these little guys are actually, they're very fragile, and most professional oboists actually make their own reeds. So when you get to high school and then into college, you would learn how to make reeds. But of course, first you want to learn how to play the instrument itself. So in the meantime, you always want to make sure that you're buying good reeds, either from your teacher or from another professional oboist that makes reeds. So, as I mentioned, the sound is produced with this, and for beginning oboe students, you really want to spend your first few weeks or so really just focusing on the reed itself and understanding how it produces the sound and getting comfortable with it. Exercises that oboe players will do is allowing yourself to change pitch on the reed. It sounds something like this. So you can notice that there's a wide range of pitches that can be produced just on the reed itself. And you want to be able to build up your embouchure muscles. These are the muscles in your lips that hold the reed in place. And you want to build up those muscles so you have control and you can actually change those pitches without using your hands or anything else, because you need to be able to do that when you play the instrument. So an exercise that a lot of young oboe players do is what we refer to as reed push-ups, where you actually change the pitch, just controlling your lip muscles and the position of the reed inside your mouth. And it sounds something like this. So again, we need to be able to have that control with our embouchure muscles in order to control the reed. So when we put it into the instrument, we have control over those pitches, and it helps us to sound good. So before actually we put the reed into the oboe, I'm going to show you exactly how to put the oboe together. So the oboe itself is three parts, which I have to take apart first. So the bottom part is the bell right here, and you would always put the bell, and we have the middle joint and the top joint. And you would always put the bell on the middle joint first. When you're holding the instrument and putting it together, you'll notice that there are these long metal rods that run along the side of the instrument. You want to be very careful that you don't grasp them too hard because they can bend, and you don't want to do that. So reach your fingers around and put them on the keys, and make sure you have plenty of cork grease on the cork as you're putting it together, and just attach the bell. And then the same thing with the top joint going to the middle joint. Make sure there's cork grease. Make sure you're not grasping too hard against any of the rods or the keys, and just slide it in there. And you'll notice that there is a point where the two keys in the middle joint and the top joint actually come and meet each other, and you want to make sure that those two are aligned. And then the reed simply goes in the top part of the instrument in what we call the reed socket, and you want to make sure the reed is straight when you're putting it in, that's on this parallel with the instrument itself, and in all the way. You always want to make sure that the reed and all the parts of the instrument are pushed together all the way. And then you have a completed instrument. Now to hold the oboe, there is a thumb rest on the back right here. It's where your right thumb goes. And then there are three main keys on the middle joint and three main keys on the top joint, and that's where your first three fingers go. But to actually hold the oboe, there's two fingers that hold the oboe itself. That's your right thumb on the thumb rest, and then your first finger on the first key in the left hand. And those are actually the two that actually hold the instrument and balance it. But your first three fingers go on those first three keys for each joint, and then your pinkies have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of different keys down here on the bottoms that will allow you to play a lot of different notes. Now the range of the oboe is a little bit limited. It's not as extreme as some of the other instruments. It can go down to a low B flat, which sounds like this. That's the low B flat just at the bottom of the treble staff, excuse me. And it goes up to, normally beginning oboe players will play up to about a high C or D, but the instrument can go as high as a high G. But of course, that becomes a little more difficult. So you want to start focusing more on the low notes first. Now that pretty much covers the oboe. I did also want to mention that the oboe has a larger cousin, which is called the English horn. I mentioned the double reed family. The double reed family also includes all of the oboe family, and that also includes the English horn. The English horn is just a little bit larger than the oboe. You might occasionally see it, definitely in high school bands and college bands. As mentioned, it's a little bit larger, which means it plays a little bit lower in sound. The fingerings are all the same as the oboe, and it also has a double reed that goes on top of this bocal, which is the metal rod that comes out the top. And the reeds for the English horn are just a little bit larger. But again, playing the instrument is very similar to playing the oboe. So that is the oboe and the English horn. Thank you very much.